Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Top 4 first up. The 1984 Washington quarter without a D mint mark is a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint, because in 1984 Philadelphia quarters did not carry a mint mark. Many people mistakenly believe the missing D means an error, but it does not. Every regular 1984 Philadelphia quarter was intentionally produced without a mint mark. Even though millions were made, collectors still search through their change because high-grade examples and unusual mint errors can be worth much more than face value. The 1984 quarter is an important part of the long-running Washington quarter series, and while most examples are common, certain coins with exceptional preservation or genuine mint errors are highly collectible. This makes the 1984 no mint mark quarter an exciting coin for beginners and experienced collectors alike. The Washington quarter series began in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington and quickly became one of the most recognized coins in American history. By 1984, the United States economy was recovering from the early 1980s recession, and the country was experiencing strong economic growth. During this period, quarters were heavily used in everyday commerce, making them essential for vending machines, parking meters, and daily transactions. The Philadelphia Mint continued producing large quantities of quarters to meet demand. Because most 1984 quarters entered circulation immediately, many became worn over decades of use. Today, collectors often search for well-preserved examples because finding an original, uncirculated 1984 Philadelphia quarter is much more difficult than finding an ordinary circulated coin. This combination of history, everyday use, and collector interest keeps the coin relevant in the modern numismatic market. The obverse of the 1984 Washington quarter features the familiar portrait of George Washington designed by sculptor John Flanagan. Washington faces left, with the word liberty above his head, the motto "In God We Trust" to the left, and the date, 1984, below. The reverse displays a heraldic eagle with its wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows symbolizing strength, while olive branches beneath represent peace. Above the eagle appears United States of America, followed by EPLURBUSUNUM, and the denomination quarter dollar below. The coin is composed of a copper core clad between outer layers of copper nickel, containing 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel overall. It weighs 5.67 grams, has a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, and features a reeded edge. These specifications remain standard for circulating Washington quarters during the clad era. One of the most misunderstood features of this coin is the absence of a mint mark. For Washington quarters dated 1984, coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint intentionally have no mint mark, while those struck at the Denver Mint carry a D and San Francisco proof coins display an S. Therefore, a 1984 quarter without a mint mark is completely normal and is not considered a mint error. Philadelphia produced millions of these coins for circulation, and collectors identify them simply as the 1984 Philadelphia issue. The mint location can affect value because production totals, strike quality, and the availability of high-grade examples vary between mints. Although Philadelphia struck many coins, perfectly preserved examples with strong luster and minimal contact marks remain desirable. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 676.5 million Washington quarters in 1984, making it one of the higher mintage issues of the decade. Because of this enormous production, the coin is considered common in circulated grades. However, population drops significantly in very high mint state grades, especially MS67 and above, where only a limited number have been certified by major grading services. As a result, collectors seeking registry-quality sets compete for the finest surviving examples, increasing prices for exceptional coins despite the overall high mintage. The value of a 1984 Philadelphia quarter depends greatly on its condition and whether it has any legitimate mint errors. A heavily worn example in poor condition is generally worth its face value of 25 cents. Average circulated coins usually sell for about 25 cents to $1. Fine condition examples often trade between $1 and $3, while extremely fine coins commonly sell for around $3 to $8. Attractive uncirculated coins typically bring $10 to $30, depending on eye appeal and strike quality. Certified mint state examples graded MS65 often sell for around $20 to $60, while MS66 examples may reach $75 to $200. Superb gem coins graded MS67 can sell for several $100s, and exceptional registry quality specimens have realized well over $1,000 at major auctions. These values fluctuate with market demand, certification, and overall eye appeal. Although the regular 1984 no-mint mark quarter is common, genuine mint errors can make certain examples highly valuable. Collectors actively search for doubled dies showing noticeable doubling on inscriptions or the date, off-center strikes that leave part of the design missing, broad strikes produced without the retaining collar, clipped planchets with a curved section missing, die cracks running across the coin, rotated dies where the reverse is misaligned, wrong planchet errors struck on another denomination's blank, and dramatic strike-through errors caused by foreign material during striking. These authentic mint mistakes are much scarcer than normal coins and can increase values from tens of dollars to several $1,000s, depending on the rarity and severity of the error. One reason collectors enjoy searching for the 1984 Philadelphia quarter is that it can still occasionally be found in circulation today. Although many have become worn after decades of use, some remain hidden in old piggy banks, coin jars, inherited collections, estate sales, bank rolls, forgotten drawers, and storage boxes. Coin roll hunters regularly search thousands of quarters hopping to discover an uncirculated example or a valuable mint error. While most finds will be ordinary, the possibility of uncovering an overlooked treasure keeps the search exciting and encourages collectors to examine every quarter carefully. Before selling a 1984 no-mint mark quarter, collectors should inspect the coin under good lighting and magnification for unusual errors, strong luster, sharp details, and signs of wear. Never clean the coin, because even gentle cleaning can leave hairline scratches that significantly reduce its value. If the coin appears to be an unusually high-grade example or shows a possible mint error, professional authentication and grading from a respected third-party grading service may be worthwhile. Proper storage in acid-free holders, protective flips, or archival quality capsules will help preserve the coin's condition and maintain its long-term value. From an investment perspective, the ordinary 1984 Philadelphia quarter is unlikely to become extremely valuable because of its large mintage. However, collector demand for certified high-grade examples continues to remain steady, and genuine mint errors consistently attract strong interest. As more high-quality coins disappear into permanent collections, the supply of top-grade pieces becomes increasingly limited. This means that while average circulated examples will probably remain inexpensive, exceptional mint state coins and rare error varieties may continue appreciating over time, especially as registry set competition grows. One fascinating fact about the 1984 Washington quarter is that many people mistakenly think the missing D mint mark makes the coin rare, when in reality Philadelphia intentionally omitted mint marks on circulating quarters during that era. Another interesting fact is that billions of Washington quarters have been produced since the series began in 1932, making them one of the most collected coin series in the United States. Because quarters pass through so many hands every day, they continue inspiring new collectors who discover that even ordinary pocket change can sometimes contain hidden numismatic treasures. That brings us to the end of today's look at the 1984 Washington quarter without a mint mark. Remember, while most of these quarters are worth only face value, condition, certified high grades, and genuine mint errors can make a significant difference. Always check your pocket change, coin jars, and old collections carefully because you never know what you might find. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about valuable US coins, be sure to like the video, leave a comment sharing your best coin find, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another exciting coin discovery. Happy collecting and good luck hunting for your next hidden treasure. Next up, the 1967 Washington quarter dollar with no mint mark is a fascinating chapter in American coinage and an especially interesting piece for collectors who enjoy coins connected to periods of major change. At first glance, this quarter may appear to be an ordinary 25-cent coin, but its story reaches far beyond its face value. It was produced during the United States coin shortage of the 1960s, when the country was rapidly moving away from traditional silver circulation coinage. Because the 1967 issue belongs to this important transition period, it gives collectors a tangible connection to an era when the nation's monetary system was being reshaped. Circulated examples are generally common and usually trade for little more than face value, but attractive mint state examples can become significantly more desirable. PCGS records a total 1967 quarter production of 1,524,031,848 pieces, making the date itself plentiful, while truly exceptional specimens are much harder to locate. The historical background of the 1967 Washington quarter makes it particularly captivating. The Washington quarter had already been an important part of American commerce since its introduction in 1932, honoring George Washington, the first president of the United States. By the middle of the 1960s, however, rising silver prices and widespread coin shortages created serious pressure on the nation's circulating coinage. The Coinage Act of 1965 authorized the replacement of silver in quarters and dimes with copper-nickel-clad compositions. The 1967 quarter, therefore, belongs to one of the earliest years of America's modern clad coinage era. The year was also part of a special period in which the U.S. Mint temporarily stopped placing mint marks on circulating coins, partly to discourage collecting and hoarding during the shortage. This means that the apparently mysterious no mint mark on a 1967 quarter is actually normal for the date rather than proof of a minting mistake. One of the most intriguing aspects of this coin is the story behind its missing mint mark. Normally, collectors use the mint mark to determine where a US coin was produced, but the 1967 Washington quarter is an exception. During this period, mint marks were deliberately omitted from circulating coinage, so quarters struck at different facilities could all appear identical from the standpoint of mint identification. PCGS reports production of approximately 873,524,000 at Philadelphia, 632,767,848 at Denver, and 17,740,000 at San Francisco, all without mint marks. That makes the phrase 1967 quarter with no mint mark historically important, but it should not be advertised as an automatic rare error. The real collecting challenge comes from determining the coin's condition, strike quality, surface preservation, and whether it belongs to the regular circulation issue or the separately collectible special mint set production. The design of the 1967 Washington quarter is classic and instantly recognizable. The obverse features George Washington's portrait, facing left, with the inscriptions associated with the denomination and date surrounding his image. The reverse presents the famous American eagle with outstretched wings, surrounded by the inscriptions identifying the United States and the $quarter denomination. The coin measures approximately 24.3 millimeters in diameter, weighs 5.67 grams, and uses a 75% copper and 25% nickel outer composition over a pure copper center. Its reeded edge provides another unmistakable characteristic of the denomination. In high-grade examples, collectors pay close attention to the sharpness of Washington's portrait, the clarity of the eagle and surrounding lettering, the quality of the original mint luster, and the absence of distracting marks. Rarity is where the 1967 quarter becomes much more interesting than its enormous mintage might suggest. With more than 1.5 billion regular strike pieces produced, the date itself is certainly not rare. A worn example found in old change should not automatically be considered a valuable rarity. Instead, scarcity becomes much more important at the upper levels of preservation. The United States Mint did not produce regular uncirculated coin sets in 1967, creating a gap in the normal source of carefully preserved examples. As a result, collectors searching for beautiful gem specimens have a much more difficult task than simply finding the date. PCGS notes that MS65 and MS66 examples are attainable but require careful searching, while MS67 and finer coins become increasingly difficult. Its current certified population data also shows how sharply the number of examples declines at the highest grades. Another fascinating part of the 1967 story is the Special Mint Set, or SMS, coin. In addition to regular circulation strikes, the Mint produced special mint sets in 1967, and these coins can look noticeably different from ordinary business strikes. The SMS quarter generally displays more carefully prepared surfaces and a distinctive appearance that can be mistaken for a proof by inexperienced collectors. PCGS reports that approximately 1,863,344 special mint sets were produced in 1967. This distinction matters because a regular 1967 circulation strike and a 1967 SMS quarter can have very different collecting characteristics and market values. Therefore, when examining a supposedly valuable 1967 no-mint mark quarter, collectors should first determine whether it is a normal business strike or an SMS issue before making assumptions about rarity or price. When it comes to market value, the 1967 Washington quarter demonstrates an important lesson in numismatics. Condition can matter far more than age alone. A typical circulated example generally has little or no premium above its 25-cent face value because of the enormous production total. In mint state, however, prices can rise considerably. Current PCGS guide figures place regular 1967 examples around $12.14 in MS64, $16.18 in MS65, approximately $20.35 in MS66, and roughly $100.850 in MS-67, depending on the precise grade and market conditions. The guide lists approximately $5,250 for MS-68. These figures should be treated as guide-level estimates rather than guaranteed selling prices. The finest certified coins can command substantially more at auction. PCGS records an MS-68 auction record of $8,813, achieved at Heritage Auctions in 2017. The collecting appeal of the 1967 quarter also comes from the opportunity to study varieties, striking characteristics, and exceptional preservation rather than simply searching for a mythical missing mint mark. Collectors should carefully inspect both sides under good lighting, looking for unusual doubling, dye-related characteristics, strong strikes, attractive original surfaces, and other recognized varieties. However, not every unusual mark is a valuable mint error. Scratches, dents, environmental damage, machine doubling, and ordinary circulation wear can easily be mistaken for errors. A particularly attractive coin with strong luster and minimal contact marks may be much more desirable than a heavily worn example with an interesting-looking but insignificant surface problem. For potentially valuable specimens, professional authentication and grading can help establish whether the coin is genuinely exceptional. Proper preservation is another important part of collecting this historic quarter. If you discover a 1967 Washington quarter that appears unusually sharp, bright, and well preserved, avoid cleaning or polishing it, because alterations can seriously affect its numismatic desirability. Handle collectible coins by their edges, and consider storing better examples in inert protective holders designed for coins. For serious collectors, certification from a respected grading service can provide an independently assigned grade and help distinguish a high-quality regular strike from an SMS example. It is also worthwhile to compare recent auction records and established price guides rather than relying on sensational claims that every old quarter is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The 1967 issue rewards careful examination because its greatest value often lies in exceptional condition rather than simple age. Ultimately, the 1967 Washington quarter with no mint mark is a remarkable blend of American history, artistic tradition, technological change, and numismatic curiosity. Its missing mint mark tells the story of a special period when the US Mint temporarily suspended mint mark use, while its copper-nickel construction represents America's transition away from traditional silver circulating coinage. With an enormous regular mintage, an ordinary circulated specimen is not a fortune in disguise, but a superbly preserved example can become a prized treasure for collectors. The finest certified pieces demonstrate just how dramatically condition can transform an otherwise common coin, with the recorded MS-68 auction results showing the potential of truly exceptional quality. For numismatists, the 1967 quarter remains a captivating tangible connection to the past, a coin that may look ordinary in everyday circulation, but becomes increasingly fascinating when examined through the lens of history, rarity, condition, and craftsmanship. Next up, the 1994 P Washington quarter dollar is a fascinating piece of modern American coinage that continues to captivate enthusiasts because it combines an instantly recognizable national design with an interesting place in the long-running Washington quarter series. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, this example carries the P mint mark, identifying its production facility and separating it from the Denver and San Francisco issues of the same year. Although the 1994 P quarter was produced in large numbers and is not considered a scarce date in circulated condition, collectors still appreciate examples that remain exceptionally sharp, lustrous, and well preserved. For someone examining an old collection, inherited coin group, or box of US change, this quarter can become a particularly interesting discovery because condition, strike quality, unusual mint errors, and certified high grades can make an otherwise ordinary modern coin considerably more collectible. Its real appeal comes from the combination of American history, classic artwork, and the possibility of finding an unusually beautiful survivor from a coin that once circulated widely across the United States. The historical story of the 1994 P Washington quarter reaches back much further than its 1994 production date. The Washington quarter was introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and John Flanagan's portrait became one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. By 1994, the series had already been circulating for more than 6 decades, making the Philadelphia issue part of a long-running national tradition. The 1994 P quarter was struck during an era when the United States Mint was producing enormous quantities of circulating coins to satisfy everyday commerce, rather than creating a limited commemorative issue. Philadelphia produced 825,600,000 examples of the 1994 P quarter, demonstrating just how extensively this coin was manufactured. As a result, the coin represents an interesting tangible connection to everyday American life during the 1990s, a period of technological change, economic growth, and rapidly evolving popular culture. One of the most captivating aspects of the 1994 P Washington quarter is its classic design. On the obverse, George Washington faces left, surrounded by the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1994. The portrait was based on the work of sculptor John Flanagan and had become an iconic representation of the first U.S. president on American coinage. The reverse presents the familiar American eagle with outstretched wings, surrounded by United States of America, EPLUIBUSUNUM, quarter dollar, and $1/4 elements characteristic of the era's Washington quarter design. The coin measures approximately 24.3 millimeters in diameter, weighs 5.67 grams, and has a reeded edge. It is made from a copper-nickel outer layer surrounding a pure copper center, with the outer composition being 75% copper and 25% nickel. These specifications give the coin its familiar appearance and unmistakable feel, while the strong contrast between Washington's portrait and the eagle reverse makes a well-preserved specimen especially attractive. The P mint mark is an important identifying feature for collectors examining a 1994 Washington quarter. On this issue, the P indicates that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Collectors should distinguish the mint mark from claims about unusual varieties, because simply having a P does not make the quarter rare. In fact, the 1994 P is classified by PCGS as a regular strike issue with a very large production total, and ordinary examples are generally abundant. Nevertheless, collectors pay close attention to the date, mint mark, lettering, portrait details, edge, and overall surface, because genuine mint-made abnormalities can change the collecting interest of an individual coin. A dramatic off-center strike, broad strike, clipped planchet, major die break, or other authenticated mint error could be substantially more desirable than a normal example. However, unusual-looking damage caused after the coin left the mint should not automatically be called an error, which is why careful examination and professional attribution are important. When it comes to rarity and condition, the 1994 P quarter provides an excellent lesson in modern coin collecting. Its enormous mintage means that an ordinary circulated example is not rare simply because it is nearly 32 years old. PCGS estimates hundreds of millions of 1994 P quarters survived, and the issue is categorized as a common modern Washington quarter. The situation becomes more interesting at the upper end of the grading scale. Coins preserved with brilliant original luster, clean fields, strong strikes, and very few marks can become much more desirable to collectors assembling high-grade registry sets. A coin described casually as uncirculated should not automatically be assumed to be extremely valuable. Professional grading services evaluate details such as surface preservation, strike, luster, and eye appeal before assigning a numerical grade. Therefore, the real challenge is not simply finding a 1994 P quarter, but finding an exceptionally preserved example that can compete with other high-grade pieces. The market value of a 1994 P Washington quarter varies dramatically according to condition and whether the coin possesses a genuine collectible variety or mint error. Typical circulated examples generally trade around face value, while attractive uncirculated pieces can command modest premiums. Published market information from Coin World lists the 1994 P at approximately 28 cents to 57 cents in lower grades, around 86 cents to $2.30 in some intermediate grades, about $6 in another higher grade category, and higher amounts for exceptionally graded examples, depending on the grade. The important point for collectors is that these figures are not a promise that every 1994 P quarter is worth a large amount. The strongest premiums belong to unusually high-grade coins and genuine varieties or errors. PCGS records an auction result of $864 for a 1994 P quarter graded MS63, sold by Heritage Auctions in 2006, showing that exceptional auction circumstances can produce prices far above ordinary retail values. For collectors searching specifically for a potentially valuable 1994 P, condition should therefore be one of the first things to examine. Look for original mint luster, minimal contact marks, sharp lettering, strong details on Washington's portrait, and a clean reverse without excessive scratches or dull surfaces. Coins removed from circulation often show numerous small marks because copper-nickel-clad quarters were heavily used in everyday transactions. A particularly attractive uncirculated example can be much more interesting than a heavily worn piece, even though both carry the same date and mint mark. Collectors should also inspect the coin under good lighting and use magnification when necessary, but avoid polishing or cleaning it. Cleaning can permanently alter the original surfaces and may reduce collector desirability. If an example appears genuinely exceptional, professional certification from a respected grading service can provide an independent assessment of authenticity and condition. Another reason the 1994 P remains appealing is the possibility of mint errors and unusual varieties, although collectors should be careful not to confuse ordinary wear with a genuine mint-produced error. A major error can include characteristics such as a significant off-center strike, missing portion of the design, unusual planchet problem, or clearly documented die-related anomaly. These coins can attract substantially more attention than normal examples because their production history is different from the standard issue. At the same time, there is no basis for claiming that every 1994 P quarter contains a famous double die variety or automatically carries a huge premium. The standard PCGS listing identifies the regular 1994 P issue and does not present it as a major key rarity. For that reason, collectors should rely on documented varieties and authenticated errors rather than dramatic online claims. A genuine, clearly identifiable mint error is where the real excitement begins. For anyone building a collection, the best strategy is to concentrate on quality, authenticity, and documentation rather than simply collecting every 1994 P quarter encountered. Keep attractive specimens in inert holders or archival quality coin storage, handle them by their edges, and avoid touching the main surfaces unnecessarily. If a coin appears unusually sharp or contains a suspected mint error, compare it with reliable numismatic references and consider professional evaluation before assigning a high value to it. The 1994 P was also included in the 1994 United States Mint uncirculated coin set, meaning collectors can encounter specially preserved examples from original mint packaging. Buying from established coin dealers, recognized auction houses, or reputable numismatic sellers can also reduce the risk of paying an inflated price for an ordinary coin. Most importantly, collectors should remember that grading is highly sensitive to surface quality, and two coins carrying the same date and mint mark can have very different market values. Ultimately, the 1994 P Washington quarter dollar is a wonderful example of how ordinary American pocket change can become an engaging window into numismatic history. It is not a rare quarter merely because it carries the 1994 date or the Philadelphia P mint mark. Its large mintage makes ordinary examples readily available, yet that does not make it uninteresting. Its connection to George Washington, its classic John Flanagan design, its place in the continuing Washington Quarter series, and the possibility of discovering an exceptionally preserved specimen or genuine mint error give collectors plenty of reasons to examine it carefully. For enthusiasts, the greatest attraction is often the hunt itself, the opportunity to distinguish an everyday quarter from a truly exceptional survivor. Whether found in an old collection, an uncirculated set, or a group of coins saved over the years, a beautiful 1994 P can become a prized treasure and a tangible connection to the American coinage of the 1990s. Its story reminds collectors that value in numismatics is created not simply by age, but by rarity, condition, authenticity, historical context, and the enthusiasm of people who continue to preserve these small pieces of the past. The 1965 Washington quarter dollar with no mint mark is one of the most historically fascinating coins in the entire Washington quarter series because it represents a major turning point in American coinage. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary old quarter, but this coin belongs to the very first year of the United States Mint's transition from traditional silver quarters to copper-nickel-clad quarters. That historic change gives the 1965 issue a special place in numismatics and continues to captivate enthusiasts who appreciate coins connected to major moments in American monetary history. The absence of a mint mark is also particularly interesting because mint marks were deliberately suspended during this period, meaning collectors cannot simply interpret the missing letter in the same way they would on many other Washington quarters. With a massive reported mintage of 1,819,717,540 regular strike pieces, the ordinary 1965 quarter is not rare in circulated condition, but beautifully preserved examples, exceptional mint state coins, and authenticated varieties can become much more desirable. The historical background of the 1965 quarter is especially important because the United States was experiencing a serious coin shortage during the early 1960s. Rising demand for silver, combined with people removing silver coins from circulation, created pressure on the government to find a practical alternative. The Coinage Act of 1965 changed the composition of the nation's dimes and quarters, replacing the traditional silver ally with copper-nickel-clad material. Production of 1965 dated Washington quarters began on August 23, 1965, and continued into July 1966, illustrating just how unusual the transition period was. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were involved in producing circulating coins, while the San Francisco Assay Office produced 2,360,000 1965 quarters for the special mint set. During this period, the mint also stopped using mint marks to discourage collecting and hoarding of the newly introduced coins. Because of this unusual policy, the 1965 no mint mark quarter is more than an everyday denomination. It is a tangible connection to one of the most important transformations in 20th century American coinage. The physical characteristics of this quarter make the change immediately meaningful to collectors who know what to look for. The coin retains the familiar Washington quarter design created by sculptor John Flanagan, with a left-facing portrait of George Washington on the obverse accompanied by Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1965. Reverse features the majestic American eagle with outstretched wings and the surrounding inscriptions associated with the Washington quarter denomination. Beneath the historic artwork, however, lies a completely different metallic structure from the quarters of 1932 through 1964. The 1965 regular issue is made of copper-nickel-clad copper, weighs approximately 5.67 grams, measures about 24.3 millimeters, and has a reeded edge. This combination of familiar artwork and revolutionary composition gives the 1965 quarter an appealing dual identity. Visually, it continues a beloved American design, while technologically, it introduces the clad coinage era. The missing mint mark is perhaps the most fascinating feature for someone discovering a 1965 quarter for the first time. On many US coins, collectors immediately search beneath the date or near the design for a small letter, identifying Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. The 1965 quarter breaks that expectation because the mint temporarily suspended mint marks. Consequently, collectors should not automatically assume that every no mint mark 1965 quarter was simply a conventional Philadelphia product. PCGS explains that Philadelphia and Denver were both producing business strike coins during this period, while San Francisco also struck mint markless 1965 quarters specifically for the special mint set. This makes the 1965 issue particularly interesting from a historical perspective and creates an important collecting lesson. Sometimes the absence of a mint mark is itself part of the story. Collectors should also distinguish the regular circulation issue from the 1965 SMS pieces, which were specially prepared and had a separate production total. When discussing rarity, it is important to separate historical importance from simple scarcity. The regular 1965 no mint mark quarter had an enormous production total of 1,819,717,540, so an ordinary circulated example is not considered a major rarity. However, condition can dramatically change the collecting picture. Large numbers of these quarters entered circulation, where they experienced years of handling, contact marks, scratches, and surface wear. Finding a specimen with brilliant original surfaces, excellent luster, strong details, and very few imperfections becomes increasingly difficult as the grade rises. This is why advanced collectors may become much more interested in high-grade certified examples than ordinary pocket change specimens. The distinction is crucial. The coin is historically scarce as a first-year clad type, but not scarce in ordinary circulated survival. Its greatest condition rarity appears at the upper levels of preservation, where tiny differences in surface quality can produce significant differences in desirability. The market value of a 1965 Washington quarter, therefore, depends heavily on grade, appearance, certification, and whether the coin represents a recognized variety or unusual mint-produced error. Current NGC price guide information lists ordinary 1965 examples at approximately 30 cents to 85 cents in circulated grades, with higher grade mint state examples rising through the single digits and into substantially higher levels at the finest grades. NGC currently lists guide values reaching approximately $100 for MS67, $900 for MS67 Plus, and $5,250 for MS68, illustrating how dramatically condition can influence a modern clad coin. These figures should not be interpreted as guaranteed selling prices, because actual transactions depend on certification, appeal, buyer demand, and the specific marketplace. Even more strikingly, PCGS records an auction result of $12,650 for a 1965 Washington quarter, demonstrating that an exceptionally desirable top-grade example can command a substantial premium. Such results belong to the exceptional end of the market and should never be used to claim that an ordinary circulated 1965 quarter is worth thousands. Another fascinating area for collectors is the search for varieties, errors, and special strikes connected with the 1965 issue. Because the coin was produced during an extraordinary transition in US mint operations, collectors pay close attention to pieces that differ from normal examples. The regular business strike quarter should be distinguished from the 1965 Special Mint Set SMS quarter, of which only 2,360,000 were produced. Collectors may also investigate documented double die characteristics, die varieties, unusual strikes, and other genuine mint errors, but a suspicious-looking coin should not automatically be described as a valuable error. Post-mint damage, machine doubling, scratches, environmental discoloration, and ordinary circulation marks can easily be mistaken for rare varieties. For that reason, authentication and comparison with established numismatic references are especially valuable when a supposedly unusual 1965 quarter appears to show doubled lettering, unusual design details, or an abnormal strike. Condition is one of the most important considerations when evaluating a 1965 no-mint mark quarter. A circulated specimen may show significant wear while retaining the historical importance of being a first-year clad issue, but an uncirculated example can tell a much more impressive story about how these coins originally appeared when they left the mint. Collectors should look for bright original luster, clean fields, sharp lettering, strong Washington portrait details, and minimal contact marks. Because copper-nickel-clad coins can develop unattractive surface problems through improper storage or cleaning, preservation is extremely important. A coin should never be polished simply to make it appear brighter, because artificial cleaning can damage its original surfaces and reduce its desirability. For particularly impressive examples, professional certification can provide a standardized grade and help establish the coin's condition in the marketplace. The difference between an ordinary mint state coin and an exceptionally high-grade specimen can be enormous, as demonstrated by the very high values associated with the finest examples in current guides. For collectors beginning a search for this historic quarter, one of the best approaches is to learn the coin's story before judging its price. First, confirm that the date is 1965 and understand that the absence of a mint mark is normal for the issue. Next, examine the surfaces under good lighting and compare the coin carefully with reliable photographs and references. If the piece appears unusually well preserved, a recognized variety or a genuine mint error may justify professional evaluation. Keeping the coin in a suitable protective holder can help prevent unnecessary contact and environmental damage, while handling it by the edges reduces the chance of transferring oils onto the surfaces. Collectors should also be cautious about dramatic claims that every 1965 quarter is a rare silver quarter or automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The regular 1965 quarter is clad, not the 90% silver composition used for Washington quarters through 1964. Understanding that distinction is one of the most important steps toward becoming a knowledgeable collector. Ultimately, the 1965 Washington quarter dollar with no mint mark deserves its place as a prized collectible because its importance goes far beyond its face value. It marks the beginning of the clad Washington quarter era, reflects the economic and monetary pressures that shaped the United States during the 1960s, and preserves the familiar portrait of George Washington in a completely new metallic format. Its enormous mintage means that common circulated examples are generally inexpensive, but its historical significance, top-grade condition rarity, special mint set connection, and potential for documented varieties or errors provide plenty of excitement for serious numismatists. For collectors, the real treasure is discovering an example that combines exceptional preservation with an authentic story from this pivotal period. Whether sitting quietly in an old collection or appearing among a group of ordinary quarters, a 1965 no-mint mark Washington quarter offers a fascinating tangible connection to the moment when American coinage entered a new era. That combination of history, artistry, technology, and collecting challenge is precisely what continues captivating enthusiasts and makes this first-year clad quarter such a rewarding addition to a Washington quarter collection. Next video, the 1996 P Washington quarter dollar is a fascinating example of modern American coinage, and while it is not generally considered a rare regular-issue quarter, it can still captivate enthusiasts when found in exceptional condition or with a genuine mint error. Carrying the P Mint mark, this quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint and belongs to the long-running Washington Quarter series that has remained a familiar part of American commerce since 1932. Its combination of recognizable historical imagery, everyday accessibility, and the possibility of premium value in superior grades makes it an interesting piece for beginning collectors and experienced numismatists alike. For collectors who enjoy examining ordinary pocket change for coins with something extra, the 1996 P quarter can become a small but rewarding tangible connection to the past. The historical background of the 1996 P Washington Quarter places it within an important period of American circulating coinage. The Washington Quarter was introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and the design continued through several generations of U.S. coinage. By 1996, the quarter had already become one of the most familiar denominations in the country, supporting everyday purchases and representing decades of American monetary history. The 1996 P issue was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the small P Mint mark on the obverse. This particular issue appeared during the modern copper-nickel era, long after the silver composition of earlier Washington quarters had ended, making it a representative piece of late 20th century American circulation coinage. One of the most recognizable features of the 1996 P quarter is its classic Washington portrait on the obverse. George Washington faces left, with the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date surrounding his portrait. The reverse presents the iconic American eagle with outstretched wings, a design that had appeared on Washington quarters since the original 1932 issue and continued until the state quarters program began changing the reverse in 1999. The 1996 P quarter measures approximately 24.3 millimeters in diameter, weighs about 5.67 grams, and is composed primarily of a copper core surrounded by a copper-nickel outer layer. Its familiar appearance may make it seem ordinary, but close examination can reveal attractive strike quality, brilliant surfaces, and minor die characteristics that add interest for collectors. The P Mint mark is especially important when identifying this coin because it establishes its Philadelphia origin. Collectors should examine the obverse carefully and locate the small P, positioned near the lower right area of Washington's portrait. The presence of the P distinguishes the coin from quarters struck at other facilities during the same period. Although the standard 1996 P Washington quarter is not normally considered a major rarity, collectors may become particularly interested in examples displaying authentic minting abnormalities. Possible areas of investigation include double design elements, die cracks, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, missing or incomplete design details, and other recognized mint errors. However, unusual-looking damage should not automatically be treated as a valuable error. Genuine varieties normally require careful attribution and, for significant pieces, professional authentication. When discussing rarity, the biggest distinction is between the ordinary 1996 P quarter and exceptional examples. Millions of standard quarters from this era entered circulation, so an average worn specimen is generally easy to locate and usually carries little premium over face value. The situation changes when the coin has exceptional preservation, strong original luster, attractive surfaces, or a documented mint error. Coins that have survived with minimal contact marks can be considerably more desirable because modern circulating quarters were frequently exposed to scratches, abrasions, and heavy handling. For collectors pursuing condition rarities, finding a sharply struck, attractive 1996 P quarter with excellent preservation can be much more challenging than finding an ordinary circulated example. Condition plays a major role in determining the market appeal of the 1996 P Washington quarter. A heavily circulated example will normally remain close to its face value, while an attractive uncirculated or near-mint specimen can command a premium depending on its grade and certification. Professional grading services evaluate factors such as surface preservation, strike quality, luster, and the presence of contact marks before assigning a numerical grade. For serious collectors, certified high-grade examples can be especially appealing because certification provides an independent assessment of condition. The difference between an ordinary circulated coin and a superbly preserved specimen can therefore be substantial, demonstrating why careful examination remains such an important part of modern numismatics. In terms of market value, collectors should approach the 1996 P quarter realistically. Most circulated examples are generally worth around face value, while attractive uncirculated pieces may bring modest premiums. Certified high-grade examples can potentially sell for tens of dollars or more, with exceptional registry quality coins, sometimes reaching higher levels depending on grade, eye appeal, demand, and auction conditions. A genuine and desirable mint error can occupy a completely different category, with value potentially ranging from tens or hundreds of dollars into much higher amounts for major, authenticated errors. A generic 1996 P quarter should not be assumed to be worth $500 or $1,000 simply because it is old or carries a P mint mark. The strongest values are reserved for coins with documented scarcity, outstanding condition, or significant recognized varieties. The visual appeal of a high-quality 1996 P quarter is another reason collectors continue searching for these coins. On a well-preserved example, Washington's portrait can display crisp details, while the lettering and date remain sharply defined, and the surfaces retain attractive mint luster. The reverse eagle can also appear particularly impressive when the coin has strong strike characteristics and minimal marks. Collectors who specialize in modern U.S. coinage often appreciate these qualities because they provide opportunities to build condition-focused collections without concentrating exclusively on extremely old coins. A brilliant, carefully preserved 1996 P quarter can therefore become a prized treasure within a modern Washington quarter set, particularly when accompanied by an impressive certified grade. For collectors hopping to find an interesting 1996 P quarter, the first step is careful inspection rather than assuming every unusual mark represents a valuable variety. Use good lighting and, if possible, a magnifying glass to examine the date, lettering, Washington's portrait, the mint mark, and the eagle on the reverse. Look for genuine signs of die doubling or recognized mint errors, while remembering that scratches, dents, stains, and damage occurring after the coin left the mint usually do not create valuable varieties. If a potentially significant error is discovered, professional attribution or certification can provide much greater confidence. Collectors should also store promising examples in non-damaging protective holders, avoid excessive handling of the surfaces, and compare their coins with reputable auction records and established numismatic references before making major buying or selling decisions. Ultimately, the 1996 P Washington quarter dollar represents the enduring appeal of American coin collecting. A familiar piece of pocket change can become much more interesting when its history, design, condition, and production characteristics are carefully examined. Its Philadelphia P mint mark, connection to the historic Washington quarter series, classic eagle reverse, and potential for condition rarities or genuine mint errors give collectors several reasons to study it closely. While the ordinary 1996 P quarter is not a guaranteed fortune and should not be presented as an extreme rarity, exceptional examples can still command meaningful premiums and provide a fascinating collecting experience. For numismatists around the world, this coin remains a captivating blend of American history, artistry, and modern minting history, a tangible connection to the past, and a rewarding addition to a carefully assembled Washington quarter collection.